I thought it would be helpful today to cover on the show a few core financial concepts that are just really helpful to talk about with your kids. And so the three that I want to cover are saving, the power of compound interest, and the power of tax-advantaged investing. Those are the main three. Now, there are other things that are kind of ancillary to this discussion that I'll talk about. You know, for you business owner folks, if you have any opportunity to employ your kids in the business when they're growing up for doing bona fide work, we definitely want to take advantage of that. That's a great tax planning opportunity. And depending on how our time goes today, I might circle back and cover that at the end a little. They're 2, 4, and 6 years old, so they're a little bit green to have this conversation yet. But you know, once I start charging my 6-year-old rent here later in the year, maybe he'll get the idea. Just kidding. That's a few years off yet. But the first thing that I plan to do with my kids is talk about the importance of saving. And we don't have any kind of allowance system in my house yet. The kids are a little bit too young yet for that. They do have some, you know, chores. They've got to make their bed and brush their teeth and that kind of stuff. But we do plan to expand on that as they get a little bit older. And so from an early age, what I want to do is have them responsible to do certain things around the house in exchange for some kind of weekly allowance to build that momentum toward work ethic and being compensated for helping others and adding value to the house. And, you know, there are all sorts of philosophies out there. I'm sure some of you are listening to this saying that that ought to be their responsibility in the first place. They shouldn't be compensated for that. You're, you know, filling the fridge with food every week. That should be their compensation. Yeah, I can get on board with that. But this whole financial thing is near and dear to my heart, and I want my kids to seek some kind of direct reward for doing stuff around the house. So this is to make is that this snowball effect of your savings earning a little bit on your behalf, and then those earnings continue to earn interest and grow on their own. That's the power of compounding that you're trying to convey. So if you start just a few years earlier and get in the habit of saving a little bit of every paycheck that you ever earn, that's how you get that long-term compound growth. And this is probably the point in the conversation when I would highlight the whole table that you've built and hit that little chart icon in Excel. And I would show them graphically what that chart looks like. It's not linear. It's not going to go up in lockstep every time you put another $100 in. It's going to go up exponentially to where it looks like a hockey stick and a really steep slope at the end of it. That's the power here. When you get started early and you get in the habit of saving a little bit out of every paycheck at an early age, that's what's going to happen over time, is compound growth. So you don't have to work as much in the future. You just have to work at the beginning to put the money in, and then your money can work on your behalf. Now, the third thing that we need to incorporate into the discussion, you should have a little bit of momentum at this phase of the conversation. And if you don't, I'd probably ask them their thoughts and impressions. Maybe you've not explained something in quite enough detail, or there might be some other reason they're not, you know, terribly fired up about it. But at that point, you talk about tax-advantaged investing. And so you can explain the differences between traditional and Roth IRAs if you want. There are a lot of ways to approach it, but I think the way that I would approach it would just say, okay, we've ignored taxes in all this. You save $100 a month for 30 years. This is how much you have if you earn 7.5% per every single year on those savings. But how much money do you have to make in order to have $100 a month to save? Right now, I mentioned at the beginning of the episode that what we want to do, if you have the opportunity, is employ your kids in your business. We have an episode about that. I was just looking through the archives earlier this morning of our episodes and content and topic and so forth. A while back, we did do an episode on the specifics of this. I would suggest listening to it if this is at all interesting to you. The deal is that as long as your kids can do bona fide work for the business, you can employ them. There's no minimum age. You can't employ your 4-year-old to balance your checkbook or do bookkeeping, right? It has to be legitimate work. But if they're on payroll, then it creates earned income that can be used to fund a Roth IRA.